make the scariest monster ever! How monster with long green tongue? War monster was pointy horns. War monster with sharp teeth. War monster with terrible claws.
I love it.
So funny.
How cute. Lovely.
Oh, I give up. My monster's not scary at all. But wait, I have an
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let me open the PowerPoint. Thank you so much. I've seen Amalia. Amalia, do you want to hop on the video and say hello? Hey, Amalia.
Can you hear? Hey, Monster, you want to scare everybody, but you know what? You can't scare anyone. I'm going to. Can everybody go? Monster, you can't scare anyone. Why won't you try to make friends instead? Because you know what? Kids can be friends, and monsters and kids are not that different. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you, Amalia. And yeah, today we are gonna talk about publishing children's books and the path to publishing, and also we are gonna share the revision process of my masterpiece. I'm gonna share the initial submission, and then we're gonna compare with the final book. So let me share my screen. Yeah, so I'm gonna introduce myself first. My name is Helen H. Wu. I'm a children's book author and illustrator of over 20 picture books, and I'm also a translator, graphic designer, and publisher. I'm the associate publisher of Yeehoo Press, Los Angeles-based children's book publisher. It's also a publisher of My Monsterpiece. So Yeehoo Press is an independent publisher, and it's part of Shanghai Yeehoo Industry Corporation, which was founded in 2007, and it published over 200 titles per year. Last year, Shanghai Yeehoo Industry Corporation published 240 titles, and we also have a publishing partner, Phoenix Publishing and Media Group. It's one of the largest publishing houses in China, and Yeehoo books are currently being published and sold in English and simplified Chinese. The English version will be published through Yeehoo Press, and the Chinese editions will be published through our publishing house in China and our publishing partners. So our acquisitions, like we will evaluate the manuscript based on the US market and the China market and how our lease goes. And also we are gonna make a profit and loss statement. So one of the biggest differences between publishing in China and in the US is that it's very common for Chinese publishers to put several books together as a collection and publish and promote them together. And in the US, it's more common that books are published and promoted individually. And I think one reason that books in China are pretty cheap, and the parents tend to buy bundles of books together, and it's more efficient for publishers to promote a collection, maybe 3, maybe 10 books all together, and to it's just like things like on e-commerce website you have one listing, and that one listing covers 10 books. It's kind of like you pay the same price of promotion, but you promote 10 books all together. So it's it's kind of more efficient for publishers. And I think among last year's best-selling books in China, and more than half half of the titles are all sold in collections. So here is an example, like these are picture books published by a publisher in China, and obviously they're different, art style, but they all have the same trim size, and they managed to put all of them into one collection. They all touch about emotion somehow, and there is another here is another collection of books. This trim size is another collection, and this trim size is a little bit different, but these four different art style, different authors and illustrators, but they managed to put all these four in one collection. And it's also very common in the middle grade as well. Like this collection is called International Award-winning children's books, and they're by different authors, and they're from different countries. So you can see that they have different stamps to show what kind of international awards they won, but obviously they're from all over the world, and they use this kind of little banner to hold all 10 books together, and they sell all 10 books together. So it's kind of like pretty common in China. That's why sometimes since we need to publish our books in China and in the US at the same time, so sometimes even we love one manuscript, we still need to see how we can put this book into our collection. And we love that manuscript, sometimes we still need to hold on. Like currently we have a nonfiction manuscript we really love, but currently most of our books are fiction, and we only have one collection of nonfiction books, and that collection already have a topic. It's called Second in the World. So that nonfiction obviously doesn't fit into this collection of books. And if we want to acquire that manuscript, we need to develop a new list. So we still need to hold on and see what other books to put into this collection. And that's why sometimes we also don't send out rejection letters to our submissions, when we develop a new list. And we probably will go through all the old submissions again and see if there are any ones that fit our new list. And also, when it comes to Chinese culture, I personally very much want to publish books about Chinese culture, but actually it's very hard to find a common ground between the two markets. For example, about Chinese New Year, like these two books are all best-selling Chinese New Year books in the States, and I love them. It's short, it's simple, it has a nice introduction of the culture that's most known to people. And but here is another book. It's an award-winning book in China, and then it was translated into English. So this one is also, I love the artwork, and but this story touches on serious social issues. It's about a dad that come from faraway place and go back home to visit his family and his child. He gets to go back home only once a year during the Chinese New Year, and it actually has a little bit of sad ending. Like in the end, when the New Year is over, the dad has to go back and go back to where he works, and it's like a farewell scene. And every time I read this, I was so touched, I was so moved, and I cried. So if I need to choose a book to read to a classroom of children that don't know much about Chinese New Year, I will definitely choose this too. And this one is definitely a nice addition to your collection of Chinese New Year, and provide a totally different perspective, and to open a discussion of social issues like this, and why in some rural area that family have to live life like this, and how we can improve. And also here is a collection of Chinese picture books that are best-selling books in China, and that I don't think have been translated into English. these books are about legend creatures based in Chinese culture and in the Forbidden City. Forbidden City is a 600 years old palace in Beijing, and every book it has a map of the Forbidden City and where the story of this particular book happened. Like this legend of this legend creatures and this story happened in this area, and in this book, it's about another legend creature and it happens here. So, but I mean, it's very popular in China, but for most people overseas, they probably have never heard about Forbidden City and let alone being there. If you have never know that thing, it's really hard to resonate with the story, and you might be curious why it is so important. So that's why we really want to find the common ground between different markets and make reader feel it's relevant. It's something that they can really learn from, and they are interesting to learn about that. And that's kind of like the thing that we need to consider. Let me share. Yeah. And for the loss and profits statement for a picture book, it's basically, usually it's the same, but sometimes in China, we also publish board books and graphic novels. So for the margin, like the margin for board books are really low, and it's pretty risky, but we love to try, different projects. And also like there is a series of board books in China we're going to publish that they have some special effects. They use some special material on the surface, like there were some clothes, there was some a different kind of surface that it makes the cost even higher, and it's more risky, but we'd love to try this creative project. So we will evaluate these kind of factors to decide whether we will go for that direction or not. So basically, that's our things we will consider when during the acquisition. And overall, we will consider if the book have universal appeal, educational purposes, and a commercial hook. And currently, all our books have all these, have these characters. And looking at Milo's Moonlight Mission, and then let's talk about the publishing timeline. So usually the market research and acquisition, it will take 3 to 6 months. Sometimes it will be faster, especially when we want to, like we have for one collection of books, usually we have like 3 to 6 books. Sometimes we are hurried to close one collection. Maybe we will rush the acquisition process of a specific book, but usually 3 to 6 months is like a common time range. There is one book we took us about almost a year to acquire that book because at first we don't have a collection that we could fit that book could fit in, but then we have a new lease and that book is a perfect fit. So from submission to acquisition, a year. Yeah, and then it's editorial development. Usually it takes 1 to 3 months. It also depends on how much the author would be willing to revise, and different projects are varies a lot. Right now, we tend to put the developmental editing before acquisition if we think there is some this story needs some structural development, or we need some bigger revision. We would give the feedback to the author and ask them to revise and resubmit. So in this way, it will be less, the author will have less pressure that if they don't agree with our, direction or the revision suggestion, they just, don't go with that direction. But sometimes if we ask the author to revise a lot after the acquisition, they will feel very frustrated. And I'm an author myself, so I totally get that, that kind of frustration sometimes after acquisition. If the editor asks them to revise a lot, they might cause confusion whether the editor like this manuscript or not. So, but sometimes we will communicate with author and see they really they agree with that direction and they want to go with that direction. So we sometimes we still will like acquire a book and do several more rounds of revision after acquisition. So then it's the illustrations and designs phase. So usually it takes 6 months to 1 year. Sometimes there is like a dummy submitted, so the author and illustrator have like a full color dummy. Sometimes we don't need that much time, but usually if it's a text and if the text and illustration are separate, usually will take 6 months to 1 year. And there is one project we had right now that the illustrator has already finished half of the illustration, but some emergency come up from her family and she couldn't continue. And we all love the artwork, but she couldn't continue illustrating it. And luckily, we found another illustrator that her art style is very similar to the first illustrator, and she is willing to take over the project and continue work on the first illustrator's artwork. So that's very rare, and we are lucky to find illustrators willing to do this. So we still, be able to use the illustration from the first illustrator and, continue work on that instead of, we have to start all over again. And of course, a lot of negotiation involved, like how we are gonna do with the copyright of illustration, since usually the illustration, the artwork are the copyright of the illustrator, but these two illustrators, they don't know each other, and it's very hard to register the copyright of the illustration under like two different person or under whose name. So there were a lot of negotiations in between, and luckily we reached agreement and how they are going to split the advance and the royalties. But this of course it's dragged the project several months longer, and then we have to push that project from the fall this season to next spring. So sometimes the issues come up. And then it's the proofread stage. It will take usually 2 to 3 weeks, and then it's it's kind of like when we have all the books ready, we will send the galley to review, and all the pre-orders will start. So usually it's 6 to 10 months ahead of publishing. Though it seems very long, but actually the sales and marketing already started at this stage. Like big buyers in the industry only have like 2 seasons of buying. Like right now, it's in early March is the deadline for the fall seasons. So books to be published from August to next January, they need to be finished by early March. So our distributor will send the book to the big buyers like Barnes Noble, like Ingram and Baker and Taylor. So all these sales already started. So if your book will be published by next January, you still need to be finished by now. So it's kind of like a long time planned ahead, but yeah, it's actually all the sales already started. So then it's printing, shipping, and warehousing. So for books that will be published, it has to arrive at the warehouse at least 1 month ahead of the publication date. So the distributor have time to ship books to the buyers and to bookstores, and so those customers will have books ready for purchase when it comes to the publication date. So for printing and shipping, usually it takes 2 months. So at least we will have 3 months ahead of publication, we will need to do the printing, shipping. And then finally, it's book launch. It's really a long journey, and usually it takes at least 1 year, sometimes 2 or even 2 years or even longer to publish a book. Okay, let's talk about the making of my masterpiece. My masterpiece was written and illustrated by Amalia Hoffman, and the left one is the initial submission, the cover of the initial submission, and the middle one is the final cover. So let me read the initial submission. Or Amalia, do you want to read it?
Which one? The initial submission?
Yeah. Do you want to read it or I will read it?
Oh yeah, I'll read it. I'll read
Okay,
it.
cool, great.
Okay, so this was the dummy, which means a mock-up book that my agent Anna Oswanger submitted to Yeehoo Press. And it looked like, it was a digital submission. So it came as a PDF. And then we sent it to Yeehoo Press. You can see the cover. It looks very different from the cover we have now. But you can see the idea, I kind of had the idea in my mind. I wanted a lot of texture, a lot of peeled paper, so it looks as if something was torn by a kid. And then you open it up and you see other things. Do you have the whole PDF?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the original. Everyone knows that mean monsters eat smelly socks, boiled bats, and wiggly worms. So I drew a monster with a huge tongue. Mom laughed. Can you imagine? That's a fat kitty, she said. Mom, it's supposed to be scary. Then I painted a monster. I can't see the end of the page, Helen.
Oh.
You need to raise it a little bit.
Oh,
no, before that.
Okay.
Make it a little smaller. Okay, then I painted a monster with horrible sharp teeth. How cute, said my sister. Is this the tooth fairy? So I made a monster with pointy horns on its head. And pointy horns and scales. No, that's the next page. Owls are hard to paint. You did a great job, said Dad. Can I hang it in my office? Grrr. I tried making the biggest monster ever with disgusting tongue, sharp teeth, horns, claws, scales. I showed it to my best friend, Noah. Why does your tiger have chicken feet, he asked. So I drew monsters with warts and pimples and one with the longest nose and rotten teeth, but still no one got scared. Then I started thinking, do monsters have to be scary? Maybe they have fun. Maybe they can have fun in a park. Maybe they like popcorn, pizza, movies, sandcastles. Maybe there is a monster who likes to draw scary humans. And then I put a whole list of scary things about humans, because when you think about it from the point of view of a monster, they only have 2 feet. They only have 2 hands. They only have 2 eyes. They don't have a tail. They don't have claws. They comb their hair. They wear clothes. They brush their teeth. They can't fly. And they sleep at night. Maybe that's scary for a monster. Maybe the monster showed his drawing to his friends. Ta-da! But no one got scared. So the master starts thinking, do humans have to be scary? And he's looking like a scrapbook of all the funny things that humans can do. They can eat ice cream, they can climb on trees, they can splash, they have birthday cake. Maybe humans can be as fun as monsters. And that was the end of the book at that point.
Thank you so much, Amalia. Yeah, that's the initial submission, and I fell in love with it immediately. The art is very unique, and it has a lot of engaging hand-drawn cutouts, and it invites kids to discover different things on every page. And it also has heart and humor, have a nice mix of heart and humor, and critical thinking. And in the end, it invites kids to think out of the box, and we love it immediately. and our editor for this book is Brian Saliba, and we actually have a phone call with Amalia and see how much she is willing to revise and how we could help brainstorm to improve this. And Amalia is really amazing that she is very open to new ideas and try out different ways to improve this. So we are really Brian and me, and we also come up with a lot of new ideas, and Amalia redrawn a lot of this page, and it really brings the book to the next level. And I will I will share a page of the bigger revisions. Like the first draft submitted was in January, and in September it's kind of like a finalized. It's the final book, almost ready. It doesn't even include all these revisions are kind of like a major revisions. It doesn't even include the small tweaks in between, and it doesn't include the design revision. There is another folder of all the design files, and it really takes a village to make a book. So I will also go through some of the major revisions and our thoughts behind it. The first thing is a text revision. So Amalia, do you want to talk about the thoughts behind that?
Well, I think the main idea that Brian Saliba had was to, he felt that the beginning of the book and the end of the book were two different parts. That the monster, once the kid or whatever, whether it's a boy or a girl, we don't really know, decide that they're going to make a monster that's not scary, it was cut off from the beginning of the book where we had, the creations of a cat that's doing this and we decided to kind of combine the beginning of the book and the end of the book by the fact that the kid imagines later on monsters that are doing the same thing that his family originally did when he or she showed them his monster creation. So in the beginning we wrote, mom said, "Oh, it's such a cute kitty." So then we thought, and then in the end of the book, if you remember halfway through the book, the kid is imagining a monster that, eating popcorn and stuff like that. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun if the monster that the kid imagines that's not scary is kind of related to the environment that the kid is growing up with. For example, if mom was chewing on chocolate chip cookies, then we can say, okay, maybe there was a monster who liked to eat chocolate chip cookies. Maybe if the monster gobbles on popcorn, maybe we can say he showed it to his daddy who liked to gobble on popcorn. Maybe if the monster likes to paint with crayons, it could be related to a monster that likes to paint with crayons. And maybe if the kid was showing his really scary monster to his friend who is making sandcastles, maybe then he can imagine a monster that actually builds a sandcastle. So that creates a connection between the beginning of the book and the end of the book and creates a better general story arc. That was not my idea. That was Brian Saliba's idea. He's a great editor. But I said, sure, that makes sense, because when a kid creates something, it's about them. It's not about the author, it's about a kid. When a kid says, oh, I make a monster, it comes from their own word, from their personal word. It doesn't come from, the kids are into themselves. They want to see things that look like themselves. So why wouldn't it be a monster that does something like mommy does, and a monster that does something like daddy does? And most important, a monster that does something like they do, because the kids are the center of the universe. And my books are for kids. And I don't really care if, someone else likes it, but I do care a lot that the kid would like it. And so I said, yeah, that's a great idea. The question, how do we do it visually? And we couldn't figure it out for a while. And then we kind of came up with the idea that if we actually had photographs of what the adult or anybody did in the beginning of the book, we can tie it better, because I didn't want to show the adults in the book. I really wanted it to be about kids. I didn't even want to show the kid, because I didn't want it to be a boy or a girl or any particular kid from any particular, religion, any particular race. We want it to be totally universal, but we wanted to leave tidbits of the kid and tidbits of the adults from the kid world. Now, any mother can chew on chocolate chip cookies, and any daddy can gobble popcorn. This is something kids understand. So, so we created this. So if you can see, we added the popcorn, and they're just saying, yeah. Dad looked at it, and there was some popcorn on the table while the kid showed Dad that monster that Dad mistaken for an owl that he can hang in his office. So then we kind of put a chocolate chip cookie. This was, by the way, the original chocolate chip cookies. I like the chocolate chip cookies, and I made several photographs. Howard near me, he photographs the cookie. So it's and the problem was I had to buy a bag of cookies. We ended up eating all the cookies, and then I had to make more illustration. I had to go and get another bag of cookies. I did not like the napkin, and I think it was the same issue with Brian. We didn't like the napkins. It was kind of floating all over the page. And guess what? How many parents really eat chocolate chip cookie and put a napkin underneath? But then again, I didn't want the cookie to just kind of be on the art, because I felt, well, that would be disrespectful. The last thing a kid wants is that the parents will throw the cookie on the art. And at the end, we came up with a solution like this. So the cookie is near the art, but it's not really on the art. And that's why we cut the pizza, because we felt like, it was kind of too messy. And I remember when I was a kid and somebody dared messing up my painting, and I was like, forget it, I didn't like that. So one thing I care about is kids' art, to me, is respected. It's something to hang, it's something to celebrate. And that's the way we wanted to keep it. By the way, the cookie was the most of our struggle. We didn't have that much struggle with popcorn, but the cookie we did over and over and over again. And at one time we had it on a table, remember, Helen?
Yeah.
We had it on a picnic table, and I said, no, so we struggled with it a little bit. And then I said, well, maybe if we had a little background and the art was a little smaller, and then the cookie can just be on the side. So it's clear that it's there, but it's not really disrespectful to the art of the kid. So we had a lot of different design issues with this. I must have had like 20 versions just of this particular spread alone. Yeah, until we came up. Yeah. So this was one monster. Originally, this was the owl in the original submission. Again, we decided to kind of, the owl looked too similar to the cat. It was painted in the same technique. And one idea that Helen had in a book is that each page will be in a different technique. One will be painted, because, kids are not into one style. If they have paint, they'll paint. If they have magic markers, they'll do something with magic markers. If they have bits of newspapers, they'll create something with newspapers. And so we didn't want it to have like one style or one form of illustration and have like one thing. We wanted it to look different. So we ended up taking this and doing something that a kid could do with scissors. Okay, so then we had this one. I came up with this one. And to tell you the truth, I didn't mean it as I just meant it as a design. If you can see, this is digitally created. It's not created by art that I did myself. I did it digitally in a computer. And you can see it right away that it doesn't have the feeling that it was created by hand so much. And also, Brian thought it was a little too kind of scary. So I said, okay, I'll try a different monster. I'll try a different owl. I shouldn't call it a monster, an owl, but it looked a little like an owl. So then we came up with the last one, which I did by taking pieces of paper and cutting them up and making also almost like a collage, because, kids have these scissors. I don't know if you're familiar with the scissors, but they're really cool. They're scissors that can cut different patterns. I know a lot of kids that have them because I work with kids, and I have a whole bunch of scissors like that. They can make a point that look like triangles, and they can make a point that looks like swirls and different things. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if a kid actually got hold of bits of paper and kind of put it together, and then kind of put it together. So I kind of put it together and shifted it. This is created by different pieces of paper, and then I kind of glued them together. And we ended up with this. You can also see that the font changed a lot. I just used the computer generated font. I don't remember the name of it, but then Yeehoo design team came up with a really original font that looked a little bit like, you know, this one too. Yeah, it came up with something like that, which is more like a kid actually paints it. So in here we thought, okay, he's showing it to a friend that likes to paint, likes to make sandcastle. So just like as a reference to sandcastle, I went to the beach near me. I went to the Long Island Sound with a paper bag and collected sand and seashells and brought them home, and then we kind of photographed them. And so it's a separate layer. If you know anything about Photoshop, the sand and the seashell are created by, I mean, I photographed them, but I put them on a separate layer. So let's say if I wanted to move them to the left or to the right, I could. It's a separate layer, and it's really easy to do in Photoshop. Thank God for Photoshop. So that was the idea, how to create it, but also to create it in such a way that if the designer says, you know what, Amalia, could you shift it to the left or could you shift it to the right, because we need the word "gar" a little bigger. Also, okay, this was the last illustration when the kid makes the monster and finally makes a masterpiece. And in here, I worked with a lot of mixed media, mainly buttons, because, you know, buttons are really wonderful. I always loved buttons. My aunt was a couture designer in Israel, and before that in Vienna. And when we used to visit her, there was like a whole box full of the most amazing buttons. And I shouldn't say that because there's some kids in the audience, but every once in a while when she wasn't noticing, I went in a room and I took one button hoping that she wouldn't notice. But I think she did. And these are not from her, by the way. These I ordered from Blick. Kids, you can order wonderful things from Blick. I just ordered a big, big bag of buttons. And all these buttons were there. And I said, hey, buttons are mixed media. You can glue them on. And they're great. They shine and they have different colors and different shapes. So I spread all these buttons on my art tables and you know, glue them on. But then the publisher said, well, I think you have too many buttons. Like, you know, it was just too many buttons. So then they offered to digitally remove some of the buttons, which you can do. But I said, no. Let me make another frame and just, you know, put new buttons on it. I think I do have one or two buttons on here that were digitally put on by cutting and pasting a button and put them on the, you know, the original art, because I get carried away. That's just my nature. I get carried away with everything. And after a while, the thing was so full of buttons that it was just ridiculous. So that's a part when you really have to listen to your designer when they say to you, Amalia, what's going on? I mean, what did you drink that day? Too many buttons in there. So we went over this. I also ended up changing the monster a little bit. I wanted a monster that was just a little cuter. So we went through that and kind of changed it a little bit. Then I had another issue. The monster essentially has 2 hands and 2 feet, if you want to call them 2 hands and 2 feet. But I got confused. Sometimes the left hand had an orange foot, and sometimes the left hand had a yellow foot. And the designer pointed out to me that I keep on doing different color hands and different color feet on the monsters. You remember that? So I had to go back and straighten that up. And that was kind of fun. The kid looks like a stick figure in a way, because we really didn't want to have any genre, any gender. We wanted it to be a kid that you know, kids paint when they start painting. For a kid, it doesn't matter, you know, what they wear and stuff. It's just sticks and hands and feet and things like that. And so, and I also didn't want the kid in a book to have a certain associated with any particular color. We wanted it to be a book about diversity. So I ended up with kind of an orangey face, and we put it together. By the way, again, technically, for those of you who are illustrator, the kid and the monster on separate layers, and the hands of the kid and the feet are on separate layers. So if I want to move the hands more to the left or more to the right, I can do that by shifting the layers. So there is more room for the writing itself. We also changed the, in the original, we changed the text. We put the just as monsters, as far as monsters, much bigger, and the word My Monsterpiece on the bottom of the page if you see the final design. A lot of this had to do with the book designer and the art director that I worked hand in hand with Yeehoo Press.
Yeah, yeah. I also want to add a little bit for this spread. Like this, since the book itself is actually this spread, the book spread looks like a frame, and this there is a frame inside this spread, so it looks like a double frames, which doesn't look as good as it should be. And we were also struggling where we should put this line. If it's outside of frame, it looks like this page have two frames. If we put on the painting, it's kind of like a part of the painting, and sometimes readers will be confused whether they should read this line or not. And for like My Monsterpiece, that's added when we decide on the title of the book, but sometimes the text is on the painting. It's also kind of like cause confusion. And another issue is usually probably we will not put My Masterpiece on our masterpiece. Even we think it's a masterpiece, we probably won't put My Masterpiece on that. So it's also another issue. Like we're kind of struggling where to do it. And that's kind of like the final version. Amalia redid the frame and redid the buttons, and we the frame is kind of like widened a little bit, and there is space to put on the text. And My Masterpiece is out of the painting, so it's also a little bit balanced, and one line up and one line is on the bottom. And yeah, Amalia also redid the monster and put the ball back. So it's really a lot of work during the design stage, and to think things and put them consistent, and like improve here and there. So let's talk about the title and the cover. We kind of like brainstorm maybe 30 or even more titles. This is just part of the titles that we came up with. Yeah, Amalia, do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, the original submission, the title was How to Make a Mean Monster. And then we started thinking about it. The book is not really about making a mean monster. And we felt that when you call a book how to, it falls into the category of how-to books, how to draw a cat, how to draw a landscape. And this is not an how-to book. So we decided to get rid of how to make, because it goes into a different category completely in children's books, or in any type of books. So then we had to come up with different things. And I kind of started playing with the words monster and making, and we came up with monster making with me, making monsters with me, making my monster. Make a monster with me, make monster with me. What if you want to make a monster making handbook, monster making scrapbook, how to make my monster, make my monster, I want to make a monster, I want, and things like that. And we went through a whole bunch of things. I Googled, what kind of goes together with monster, and then Brian had some ideas and Helen had some ideas. And at the end, I don't know how it happened, but one day I came up with My Monsterpiece, because the book has a lot of art in it. And one thing I wanted from the book is to invite kids to make their own creation, because books are about that, about, the idea of a book is really that the kid will be inspired and do something with it. And so I came up with My Monsterpiece, and that's ended up being a title. But in order to do that, I had to make a lot of what you see here was what the publisher put together. The one to the left was an idea I had, My Monsterpiece, and I thought I'll do like portions of the monster in little frame. And the team in Yeehoo thought it was a little too scary, and I agreed with them. It was also too fragmental. You couldn't really tell what's happening. The rest of the illustrations that you see here are sketches that the publisher does very quickly in Photoshop, just to give an idea what it's going to look like. They went to the original design I had in a submission, and then we kind of worked it out again. And if you look at the bottom, I took their idea and very quickly in Photoshop, I just kind of elaborated on it, what I thought will be a layout for that design. So the one on the bottom is what you call a double spread. It's the whole book jacket, because a book, has a jacket. When you open it, a jacket is almost something you dress the book with. And, if you look at the book, that's the jacket of the book. And so it's a different dimension completely. And that's what we were working on, the layout of the book jacket. Another idea I had was to not just to have a cover that would look like that, but kids love to take the jacket off. It's just the kind of thing kids do. And so if you take the jacket off, what would you see underneath? And we kind of created a slightly different version of the book cover. It's almost the same, but you can see it's a different monster, a different brush, and a different kid face. That was the idea.
Yeah, and then when we finally finalized the design of the cover and the color palette of it, we started work on the typeface of the title, and our designer came up the watercolor effect and the pen brush effect, and the second one is the winner, since we feel the pen brush stroke is kind of like more powerful and stand out more. And we also struggled between should the monster piece be black or be purple, since black is actually stand out more. But we also feel black and white usually is kind of like a color palette go with each other. But for this book, it almost doesn't have any white, and the purple goes very well with the yellow. So we choose the purple one. It's just more colorful. And finally, we have this final book, and and also here you can we did some small tweaks here and there, like here the brush tip is since these elements are all photoshopped, so here doesn't have some paint here, and we added some paint to the brush tip, so it's more realistic. And we also adjusted the saturation and the contrast, so the whole color is more vibrant, more colorful and vivid. And on the right, it's the Chinese cover. Actually, the Chinese cover is the direct translation of how to make a monster. So
Helen, can you do me a favor? Can you say that in Chinese?
如何画一只小怪兽?
I gotta learn how to say
You
that.
got it, yeah.
It's a pretty long title. Yeah, so do you want to read the book?
Sure.
So do you want to read the actual book, or do you want to read the PDF?
I actually think it will be easier to read the PDF.
Okay.
Because, if I hold the book, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, sure. Let me open that. Yeah.
This is, by the way, the inside cover. Oh, another thing I wanted to say, that I thought it would be a cool idea to have what you call end pages to the book. So these are the end pages. In the beginning, it's kids, and it says hi. And at the end, it's, in the beginning, it's monsters, and they say hi. And at the end, it's kids that are saying bye. And that was something we just thought will add fun to a book. I love end pages. So this is the final book. We also had some kind of revisions as far as my bio and what to write in the back flap, because the back flap is very important when people buy the book, whether it's the parents, the grandparents, or whatever. The first thing they see is the back flap of the book. And that's what you're seeing on this case on the right, but on the book it will be on the left. And it gives you short information about what this book is going to be about. We also wanted to make a back cover, and so I have this monster kind of popping up from the back cover, just so that if you look at it in the back, it's not completely boring. So that's the book, and I can read it to you. And this is the inside cover. You can see different brushes. I photographed the brushes, then in Photoshop, put it in, and then the team, the graphic team in Yeehoo Press did the shading. I think they did a great job on the shading, very natural, not computer-generated drop shadow, but a real professional drop shadow, which I don't know how to do, but they know how to do. It requires certain hardware that I don't even have. So this is the book. This is the end page. And it's dedicated to all my grandchildren, Noah, Anna, Dara, and Lincoln, best monster kids that I adore. If you buy the book, there is information a little bit about the technique I used, and you can read that. It's a whole mixed media of information. Okay, I want to make the scariest monster ever. It's going to have a long green tongue. It will be a monster masterpiece, my monsterpiece. I sneak up on Mom, who is munching on a chocolate chip cookie, and... Rah! Actually, could you all do the rah for me? Because I'm not so good about doing it by myself. So when I put this puppet on, can you all shout, rah! And rah! I love this child kitty, Mom says. And then you can all go, because the kid is not happy because it was mistaken for a chubby kitty instead of, okay, next page. I guess my monster with long green tongue isn't scary. You can see the kid just crossed it in frustration. What if I make a monster with pointy horns on its head? I sneak up on Dad, who is gobbling popcorn, and... Rah! Great job, Pointy. You're gonna do it as I'm pointing this to you, like together, and do it as if you ate your breakfast, okay? So they can hear you wherever you are. Rah! Rah! That's better, Lincoln, that's better. Great job painting an owl, says Dad. May I hang it at my office? Grrr. Kid is not happy. I guess my monster with pointy horns on its head isn't scary. And you can see the kid just took that monster and crumbled it in frustration. What if I make a monster with creepy sharp teeth? I sneak up on my sister Sue, who is coloring with crayons, and... Sue draws purple wings on my monster. It's so cute, she says. Is this the tooth fairy? I guess my monster with creepy sharp teeth isn't scary, and this part, you can see the kid didn't just crumble the monster, actually tore it too. So I make a monster with a long green tongue, pointy horn, creepy sharp teeth, and terrible claws too. I sneak up on my best friend John, who is building a sandcastle, and... It's so funny, John laughs. A tiger with chicken feet. I give up. I can't make a monsterpiece. My monsters aren't scary at all. But wait, I have an idea. Maybe monsters don't have to be scary. What if there is a monster who loves chocolate chip cookies just like Mom? What if there is a monster who gobbles up popcorn just like that? By the way, I drew that on paper napkin, paper plates, because kids love paper plates. And they don't eat from it much, but they do like to scribble on it. What if there is a monster who loves to color with crayons, just like my sister Sue? And by the way, in this page, I had a lot of fun. I kind of made names of, you know how crayons come in different names? They all have different names. So I thought, what will crayons that monster draws with have names? They must have names. So I thought Mean Green, purple, stinky pink, yellow cello, blue goo, and orange carriage would be good names for. And by the way, those are on separate layers, so I don't know what they would be called in the Chinese version, but I drew them on a separate layer so that Yeehoo Press can actually shut that layer and write something on instead.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And I use a paper bag.
Yeah.
What if there is a monster who loves building sandcastle just like my best friend John? I did this illustration with tissue papers that, you know, or, you know, when you buy gifts and stuff, they wrap it many times in tissue paper. Don't lose those tissue papers because you can actually glue them on in a technique called chincolet. And I also use some glitter on it. I just sprinkled glitter on it and let it dry straight on the page. What if there is a monster who loves to make scary things just like I do? We limited the scary things to a few scary things that we thought would be the scariest things a monster will think about kids. They comb their hair. That's very scary. They brush their teeth. They wear clothes. They can't fly. And they sleep at night. Would a monster like that make pictures of a scary kid? Would he sneak up on his mom, dad, sister, best friend, and... What if his mom loves it? And his dad asks to hang it in his office, and his sister draws wings on it, and his best friend laughs. And you can see, this is mom and this is dad. I wanted them to look like one family. So I gave them certain attributes. They all have a yarn tail, but I picked yarn from different colors. And you can see the friend doesn't have a yarn because he's not really part of the family, but Sister Sue, who draws with a crayon, has a tail like that. And the kid just goes, grrr. Maybe the monster will think, what if kids don't have to be scary? So the monster here is going to the library to choose books about kids. And he realizes that, you know, he has a library card, a monster library card, because everybody has to have a library card when they go to the library. So the monster should have too. So he's looking for books about kids and realizes all the fun kids have. And as he's reading one book about kids, he goes, what if kids are
genius, you know that?
just as fun as monsters? And you can see what Helen talked about, the double frame. We just extended it to the border of the paper and let it bleed. Ta-da! My Monsterpiece. And that's the final spread in the book.
Thank you so much, Amalia. Yeah, so that's the final book. And we're running a pre-order campaign now through March 9th. And for every book purchased through any retailer, we delight to send you 5 postcards and 3 stickers. And here are the 5 postcards: the popcorn monster, the tooth fairy monster, the tiger with chicken feet monster, the cookie monster, and the popcorn monster. So and the 3 stickers, we have some saying on that. You are awesome. You can find magic wherever you look. Sit back and relax. All you need is a book. And Amalia's beautiful signature. So, and we also, for orders of 20 books or more, we will send you a puzzle. It's a 48 pieces puzzle, and it's a framed. You can use this as a decoration or just to play it as a puzzle. And this is not glass, it's actually plastic, so it's pretty safe for kids. If you'd like to receive this award, you do need to send us your receipt to orders@yeehoo.com, orders@yeehoopress.com, as we don't know your order information unless you tell us. So it's not automatically sent out by the retailer you ordered from. All these rewards will be sent out by us, so you do need to send us a receipt. If you don't feel comfortable, you can block out all those information just to tell us the mailing address to mail this reward to. yeah, that's all. Thank you so much.